Hello, lovely ladies in the Goddess Creations for Women group and beyond. For, of course, we are sharing these lovely videos, hopefully all around the world. So we are now on to week 8 of the Goddess Creations Empowerment Marathon. I am Shamna Gray from Goddess Creations, and I am, as you may say, the empowerment midwife. I help you get to your personal empowerment. Now, this is week 8 of the marathon, where every week I interview two lovely women, and you can, of course, look these up in the social media. And we are now coming on to day 15, the 15th interview, let's say. And the lovely Téa Staegemann is my guest for today, who is going to be speaking on child abuse, trauma, and the power of speaking your truth. Now, hold on to your breeches, buckle up, because this is, of course, a very deep subject. Well, Téa Staegemann is also known as the Light Liberation Leader and is a mum on a mission. As a survivor of childhood trauma, sexual abuse, and mental illness, Téa is an advocate for change and truth. Growing up, the trauma and abuse left deep soul scars and resulted in depression, negative life and thought patterns, which in turn messed up her head and impacted her relationships. The shame of the internal confusing emotions as a child and the feeling that no one reached out to save her triggered her anger outbursts and emotional roller coaster rides. Téa has now rebuilt her life through a series of healing therapies and mindset work. She has overcome her ingrained limiting beliefs and childhood guilt and shame by courageously speaking up into her truth. Well, and thus entering a state of forgiveness. At the moment, Téa is very interested in also helping other children to become more empowered, and she will be sharing much more on that in a moment. And her passion is also to aid others to speak their truth too and to heal their wounds. She believes that only through speaking your truth and forgiving your past, you can truly live in your future. So Téa will be sharing their steps on how to live in the future and to heal the wounds of the past. So let me just bring her on. Hello, Téa. Thank you for joining me in this lovely interview. And I know that we have one lovely viewer, two viewers watching. So thank you very much. Put a hashtag live in the comments below to let me know who you are and that you're watching live. And if you're watching later in the replay, do hashtag replay. Téa, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's really lovely to be here with you.
Yes. So, Téa, you in the introduction, you are known as the Light Liberation Leader. What is that? I have no idea what a Light Liberation Leader is.
Well, the Light Liberation Leader is really just somebody that shines a light on difficult subjects, and by shining a light, abolishes the darkness or the shame that goes on that subject and allows others' light to shine, so other people's light to shine, so liberating them. So I shine a light, and then I liberate whatever was trapped in the darkness to come out of the light. So
that's very powerful. So you are known as the Light Liberation Leader. So what are you liberating your people from? What are you being liberated from?
So for me, it's a variety of subjects, really, but it's the things that people don't like talking about. It's those courageous conversations. It's the ones that are around things like child sexual abuse, trauma, pornography, addictions, online grooming, suicide, sexual exploitation, like all those things that causes us to have dark patches in our hearts, as I call it, and causes dark patches in our minds and darkness, right? So I'm all about liberating the light. And there are some things that just they're almost like unspoken, right? We never talk about them. Self-harm, when your child self-harms, or when you self-harm, or eating disorders. It's such a shame. There's such shame and there's such guilt around those things. And I'm not saying that we should demean those things and give them less power by shining a light on them. I just think that if we destigmatize them, if we spoke about them, more people could know things. And, you know, the more we know, the more we can do. If you know more, you can do more, right?
So actually, how is it that you have come to be this light liberation leader? What has this? What is your journey, Téa? Please share a bit of your journey for you to find this so important and so needed for, I would say, women, people, children, anyone, you know, and who is that in that traumatized situation. So how have you come to make this your passion?
I think it's just, I was actually doing my website the other day, and I wrote this on my website that, you know, sometimes we have a calling, we have something that haunts us, right? And no matter how far we run, I've run away from this my entire life. And I always say, you know, earlier years, I used to be kicked under the table. People would kick me, literally kick me under the table and say, you know, keep quiet, like, don't talk about that, right? Because I almost have no tact, right? I have no filter for difficult conversations. I want to have the difficult conversations. I don't like the shallow conversations. There are things in life that need to be addressed. There are people that are suffering. There are people that are struggling with things. If we don't talk about them, we can't, you know, we can't share. We don't give people space. So I just realized, you know, I've had a really tough journey around identity. Who am I? What am I? And one of the things that I did is I read a book when I first decided, okay, I've got to heal this sexual abuse. I was living in a fake world. I was, you know, I had been telling myself for years and years and years, and I don't know, your viewers might find this too, that for many, many years, I attracted sexual abuse victims, survivors to my home. So when I was in corporate, all my nannies were sexually abused. They came from all over the world, from Australia, from Poland, but they were all sexual abuse victims. And they then opened their hearts to me over time. So I attracted these people, and I realized that it was a gift that I had to create a space, right? To hold a space for people. They felt safe with me. And I ran away from that for a long time.
Because you were struggling with your own identity, let's say?
No, I think I was just not, you know, sometimes we're in a conscious coma. We're not awakened to certain levels of awakening. There's like an awakening that you go through in life, you know, and I was just very concerned with my job then and my kids and stuff. And I also was in this conscious coma of, I made myself believe my entire life that there was no significance in my sexual abuse. It had no significance in my life. It was a story that I told myself. Doesn't affect me. Oh, I was abused. Yeah, whatever. But it had no. Until one day my husband said to me, wake up, right? You can't shower with me. You don't want to bath together. You don't like swimming with the kids. You know, there's all this stuff. Like, we don't have sex like other couples do. You're very, you know, like closed up in the bedroom, and you're not as forthcoming and open and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, Téa, you have issues. And I was like, I don't have issues. And he was like, you have some serious issues, right? You need to deal with it. And literally it was like, wow, I had been suppressing all of that for years, 20 odd years. I had suppressed all of that and made myself believe that it had no effect when actually people in my life were struggling. And Shamna, I was angry. I had anger issues. I was monster mom, right? I used to get so cross with my kids. I'd throw stuff down the stairs. I was this really awful woman. My anger was triggered like this. I was a lovely person if you knew me, but at home, if you flip and step on my toe, I would break your neck, right? And I just realized, wow, I don't want to be monster mom.
And was all of this triggered by your own history of abuse? Is that what you're saying?
It was all a result of unresolved anger, of like hurt and deep soul scarring, right? Deep soul scarring as a little girl. And I just always thought, oh, I just have a bad temper. I come from a family with bad tempers. It's like bullshit, right? Cool bullshit.
Because you were repressed. You were repressed in speaking your truth. Is that what you're saying?
I had emotional wounds, right? I had emotional wounds, and I was angry and resentful because of it. So there were all these little signs. But when you're in the picture, you can't see the frame.
Yeah.
Right? you can't see the picture from within the frame. And for a long time, I was in the frame and I wasn't looking at the picture. And the people in my world were. And it kind of came to a head. And I got loads of therapy for it. And then one day I attracted again a woman into my world who was sexually abused by her father. And there was a trigger in her life. And she phoned me one day and said, listen, I want to share this with you. I've never shared it with anybody else. Hardly any people know about this. She's a very professional woman with a very high ranking and a very big business. And she was like, I need to share this with you. And as she shared her story with me, 2-3 hours on the phone, all this stuff came up. All these memories of mine came up. And I said to my husband, you know what? Got to deal with it. And I just pulled off all the Band-Aids, all those Band-Aids, years and years of self-preservation, of protection, of believing all this stuff. Oh, I'm not this, I'm not that. It all got plucked off.
So actually, you had a different vision. What was then that change, let's say, where you suddenly started peeling and plucking off? Because before you had an image of yourself, which actually I thought you were going to be saying that you thought you were sad, but you were very angry. So where was the identity crisis in this then? Because I'm a bit lost concerning that.
Well, the identity crisis became in terms of, you don't really know who you are, because you have such a deep soul scar and you see yourself as this different kind of person all along, and you're hurt and you're angry and you can't really get to the bottom of, of who am I? What am I? What does Téa do? Where do I fit into this picture? What is my calling? What is my this? What is my that? And it was all hidden by all this stuff. And it wasn't until I managed to take off those plasters, and a friend facilitated that by telling her story. She spoke her truth. She managed to uncover my real truth, like my real story, my real identity. Like, this is really who you are. This is what happened to you. And then I just said to my husband, okay, let's go all in. Let's just go all in. Let's take it off.
Would you say that this expression of the anger and the frustration, and also when you were as a mum, they say all of that anger was a form of, because of course you weren't dealing with the deep things that were there, they were hidden, they were blocked, they were silenced, let's say.
Yeah.
Would you then say that that kept you into reenacting that victim situation?
Absolutely. We're bound by the stuff without really knowing it, right? You're caught up in victim. You don't know you're a victim. I spent years on shrinks couches. I did all these kind of things, and a lot of that was victim mentality, right? A lot of, without knowing. I mean, I don't think we willingly are victims, right? Victim mentality is a thing that creeps up from behind, and it's like a cloud that hangs over you,
hits you in the face.
Yeah, it's not something that we choose. I don't choose to be a victim, right? So, okay, some people do, but majority of us don't choose to be victims. We are just victims of our circumstance. And what happens a lot, what I see a lot with all these women and with people who have been abused and stuff like that, sexual abuse, is it almost steals your identity, right?
Yes.
Because of there's meddling with you, right? Someone meddled with you when you were a little girl, when you were busy forming your self-talk, your self-everything. And for me, it was shame, like shame because it awakened sexual desire within me, right? It did all this stuff for me. And I had shame around it. So my self-talk was awful. So with my self-esteem was awful. So my self-thinking was awful, right? Like, who am I? Like, I'm not worthy. I'm all these kind of things that I'm not really am, and you kind of, you become a victim without knowing you are a victim.
And of course, it becomes your default because you don't know anything better than that which you have encountered and felt and experienced. I mean, unless you're watching television, and I think you did mention porn at some stage, at a certain point. Well, yes. How did you make that transition? let's say? How did you make the decision? I just want to give you a moment to think about that. And then on Miriam, who said, and thank you, Yvonne, thank you, Margriet, thank you, Brigitte, for watching. And Miriam is saying that she loves this because she's also a person who talks about everything real open, Téa. So there, and she thinks it's very necessary. Lots of people can do it by themselves, but when they hear a person who does it, then there is a door open. So that's Miriam saying thank you for sharing, so that other people are also encouraged to speak more. How did you make that transformation, let's say, to become more open and speak, or find your goal in taking this up in life?
You know, it's a progressive journey. I really wanted to find the true me. I wanted to, for so long, you have this story and you have this past. And for me, it was like I tried all these things in my life. I tried loads of different things, but nothing seemed to fit. I've done, and one of the journey that I did when I started healing my sexual abuse was I read a book on identity called The Perfect You by Dr. Caroline Leaf, where she talks about the perfect you. And she really pulls it apart, how each and every one of us are made so incredibly, just perfectly the way we are. All our elements are everything. And I read that. And then I also went on this journey of doing like my personality test. I did my love language. I did all these kind of things to form my true identity. Like, who is Téa really? Like, at the heart of who she is. Find out who you are, right? You are not what happened to you. You are how you were created. And I went on this mission to find how I was created, right? Just to find out the truth about me. This is I'm a creative problem solver. That's something that I know about myself, right? So I can be like, this is my I am statement now. I'm no longer an abuse victim. That doesn't define me. What defines me is who I am at the core. I'm a creative problem solver. I'm a truth slayer. I'm all these kind of things, right? So when I formed this identity and I was like, flipping out, this is who I really am, right? And now I'm going to be that person. Don't kick me under the freaking table anymore because I'm speaking the truth, right? If you don't like it, leave. If I'm in my house or I'm somewhere where I'm going to address the situation and I'm going to speak up, then that is who I am. If you don't like it, leave.
I have a question now, because now that you have changed your mindset about this and done all of this personal development work and healing in that whole process, and as you said before, the healing comes in layers. Yeah. You mentioned before that you kept attracting sexual abuse victims.
Yeah.
Do you now attract them as much as in the past?
I do, all the time.
You still do. So actually there's still something for you to do with them. Otherwise you wouldn't be attracting them. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, possibly. I think it's just because people know that I'm a fierce protector of people. I have a very deep love for people and protecting people. And they know that with me, it's no BS, right? I'm not no bullshit person. I speak my truth. I say it as it is. And I'm not going to stab you in the back. I'm just not that kind of person. And I really believe that comes into that save me moment, right? We spoke about before, in the sense of there were two instances in my life when I was being abused. There were two very clear instances that I remember as a little girl that I thought people saw what was happening to me. One was my uncle and one was my brother. And I desperately wanted them to save me, right? But I didn't know to speak up. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. And, when you first instance of somebody potentially, like, you think someone's seen you or you think someone's seen something. I mean, I was coming out of the bathroom with this guy where he was molesting me in the bathroom. And that's why I have a thing about bathrooms, by the way. And sex in the bathroom. I didn't do it for years and years and years. And basically, I thought my brother saw me, but my brother was only 9 or 10 at the time. So he didn't. And I actually asked him the other day, we had a conversation about it, and he was like, no, I don't remember a thing, right? It was just a fleeting moment. But that was a save me moment. I desperately wanted someone to save me. And then the other one was in the pool where I thought my uncle had seen this guy molesting me in the pool. And I was like, no one's saving me. And then you become this person who were like, okay, well, fuck it. If no one's going to save me, then I'm going to save myself, right? So my whole life was built around just having to save myself. I just have
that barrier.
Yeah. this thing to save myself, right? And I think part of the saving myself is part of how I've become this person that speaks up about things, that's a fierce protector of people, because I think there was always this need that I wanted to be protected as a child. I wanted people to save me. And now I'm like, okay, well, nobody saved me, so now I have to save the world kind of thing, you know. But yes, it's funny how all these things, all these patterns from our childhood, all these things that happen to us shape us as people, right? They shape how we become. And I think people are attracted to that potentially because that's just who I am. And
So,
people are also put off by it though, right? There are many people that don't like it at all. It makes them very uncomfortable.
absolutely, absolutely. And of course, let's make this clear. Not every woman or man is sexually abused. And yet that doesn't mean that we're not allowed to speak about it. So now, as you have now journeyed on and overcome this for yourself, and of course it is in layers, and it has, you know, sometimes you do get triggered. How do you now put this into work and in daily life? How do you serve people at the moment?
So at the moment, I have been coaching up until now. I've been, you know, supporting women and stuff like that. Currently writing a book where I'm telling my story and then putting kind of like 8 aspects together, which I'll share with you later. But, you know, right now I'm just about creating a space for people to speak their truth. I'm very much about creating that space. I also want to create a space where we speak more truth. So I'm starting up a podcast series and an interview series where I will be interviewing people that speak truths about things that affect us in our lives, like things that affect children in their lives, and addressing some of the heaviest subjects, right? Because I think somebody like me who has the courage to speak up, who has the thick skin, I'm almost kind of a bit like a journalist in my way of like, I want to uncover it, like, come and let's shine a light on it, right? Because if I don't shine a light on it, who will? It will just stay in the dark and no one will talk about it. And these kids might not receive the help that they need. These young people might never be saved if a mom or dad, you know, it's like I could shine a light on something that happened to me, or I could shine a light on something that is a pattern that happens when you're sexually abused, or this or that. Or I could even say something that could make a brother or sister go, wait, I saw my sister come out of the toilet with that guy, right? So when we share our stories and we speak the truth, it could liberate lots of other people. And that is what I now want to do. I want to create a space for this to happen. I am sick and tired of falling around and dabbling. I now know that this is my gift. My gift is to hold a space. My gift is to draw people to me that need their truth spoken. And my gift is to speak up and speak, you know, shine a light, really. So that's how I want to create space for people to be able to do that.
So actually you have a very deep ingrained passion to actually be this liberator, this light liberator, shedding light on the shadow, so that we women or we aren't hidden and unseen and alone in that shadow anymore. And I can well understand that this is of course very challenging, because sometimes the shadow is safe, if you know what I mean. It's like a you know, you don't have to be confronted with whatever it is that is your pain. As you said earlier on, you said that, oh, I'm fine, you know, but yet you were a very angry mom because you had put a lid on your shadow, and now you've opened that lid, or broken it open and given space for it to be seen, and therefore that healing process could now start. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because,
so
you know,
what would you give us to be able to shed thoughts? Oh, I'm now hearing back. Just speak, Téa.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. It's just I'm hearing myself now twice.
Oh, okay, all right. Oh yeah, you've got a little bit of an echo, I heard now. So yeah, so I think, you know, one thing I always just think about is that we were created in love, right? Love is the universal kind of currency. And if you're not acting in love, if your life isn't a reflection of love, so anger is the opposite of love, right? Then you know that there is something ingrained, something really deep isn't correct in your life, because love is the opposite of anger. And, you know, and I started to realize that I wasn't, Dr. Caroline Leaf also actually talks a lot about this love currency, right? She talks about the love currency. And if you're not trading in love currency all the time, then there is something ingrained, you know, off balance in your life. And then it needs addressing. It needs to be healed. It needs to be spoken about. A light needs to be shone onto it. So I think all of us can sit back and reflect and go, you know, are there some things in my life where that irritates me a lot, or that I have irritation or anger or whatever, and shine a light on those things and say, you know, they're not trading in the love currency. They need to be lit up. They need to be liberated. Let's get rid of them so I can be the person who flows in love, right? Who are loving and kind to myself, to everybody else.
I must say the echo is a bit hindersome. So let me just see.
Let's just see if this works better. Nope.
If you unplug that.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
But it's still echo. So I'm going to try to be as little as possible. So how do we get to the forgiving to heal the future?
Right. So as I said to you before, when we went in our little interview just before, we spoke about how hard it is to just forgive somebody, right? It's really, really hard. It's a very hard place to come from. The gift that somebody gave me in 2013 is I went to a course, and one of the things they gave me was the gift of perspective, right? And it's changed my life ever since then. And it's really courageous. It's really, really courageous. It takes a lot of guts to step into someone else's shoes. But when you do, it's transformational, right? So the forgiveness in the world that we've seen, the amazing acts of forgiveness and kindness, all comes from perspective, from people that have put themselves in someone else's shoes and said, hang on, wow, I'm seeing it completely different, right? Because so let's say you and I are sitting in a restaurant, right? And we're sitting opposite each other, and I ask you, what can you see? And you can see a yellow board behind me, right? And I can see white behind you. You can't see what's behind you, and I can't see what's behind me. Doesn't mean we're wrong, doesn't mean we're right. It's just we have a different perspective, we have a different view. So one thing that really helped me immensely in my journey, and what triggered my forgiveness like this, and I use it now all the time, is I put myself in somebody else's shoes. Immediately, it changes my whole view of the world. And I did that with my abuser. I put myself in his shoes. I went and I did a bit of research, and I said, okay, I asked questions. I asked my sister, I asked my brother, I asked my mom and dad aren't around anymore. So I asked questions, and I said, who was this guy? What was his background? Why did he abuse me? What's going on here? And I realized that actually he was a 14-year-old boy and I was a 6, 7, 8-year-old girl, right? But when he came to us, he was 12, 13, 14. He came from a broken home. He had been in foster care. So he had very clearly been abused, and he then became the abuser. And when I put myself in his shoes, I gave myself that gift of perspective. It changed for me. It made forgiving a much easier task, because actually, Shamna, forgiveness is a choice. It's not a feeling. It's not an emotion. It is a choice you make. It is and I couldn't get this for a very, very long time. I couldn't get it. I was like, no, 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 no. And then I realized that actually it's an empowering choice, right? We have choices in life, and it's not an emotion that controls me. I am in control of the situation, and I choose to forgive, because unforgiveness rides me for the rest of my life. It will destroy me. It keeps me bitter. There's no love currency in unforgiveness. There is only love currency in forgiveness, because when I've forgiven, I am free. And doesn't matter about them. their day will come of reckoning, right? But for me, I want to be free. I want to shine my light. I want to be liberated.
And this is what you give the people that you work with?
Yes, so the people that I would work with is we would go through a series of things, and I said this to you before, like I have 8 things that I check my life against every day.
Sure, if you have something that would be, that would be lovely, just to round this up for the lovely viewers, of course. Yes. Yeah. Do you have those tips to help us enter that forgiveness and to therefore heal our future?
Yeah, absolutely. So, heal the wounds of the past and live in a free, lit up future. I would say, give yourself the gift of perspective and make choices to forgive. And, like I said to you, like for me, I changed the rewiring of my mind with gratitude, because gratitude physically rewires your brain. So instead of focusing on all the things that was wrong in my life and the hurt that I've had and the trauma that I had and all these things that happened to me, which kept me caught up in victim, I decided to start living a life of gratitude. And I started a gratitude journal. I've done 8 or 9 gratitude journals over the last 5 years.
Wow.
Because it keeps me grounded in the now. This is what I have now. And it sets me up for the future, because it doesn't make me think about the past all the time. I'm focusing on this is what I have right now. 100 gratitudes a day I started with. 100. I had to seriously rewire my brain, because it takes rewiring. If you're caught up in victim, your brain is on this tangent, right? So I started with 100 a day. I now do 10 because it's too easy for me. It's just really easy. But it's a daily practice. So it's the gift of perspective, I would say. It is the choice of forgiveness and forgiving lots of people all the time, constantly looking at going, am I living in grace? Am I forgiving myself? Am I forgiving others? And then I would say, gratitude. Rewire your brain to gratitude. Focus in the now. Today, what have I got today? Not what happened to yesterday or what can happen tomorrow. Today. Wow.
But I do have a very important question on that, because if you are always focusing on today and not on the past, when you do get triggered, how do you then deal with that past? Do you then go back into your daily practice?
I do. And I pay respects to the past, and I'll say, fine, this happened. And I have a husband, I have an accountability partner that I will share with, and I'll say, wow, this memory just came up, and God, I can't believe that this shit happened to me when I was younger. Remember? And he was like, Téa, you're not a victim. Remember, it's great to remember, but remember, you're not a victim. You choose. And I'll be like, you're right. I just wanted to share with you that this memory came up, and fucking hell, my word, it was so screwed up that I had this stuff when I was growing up. But thank you that I could speak it, that I could, it's releasing, shining a light, speaking the truth. So I get to speak it, and then he just says, okay, now move on, right?
Exactly. Okay, now move on. So you speak your truth and then acknowledge it, allow it, and then say, okay, now move on. Now, Margriet says, wow, it's amazing how you both mentioned a lot of steps that she has done in the last couple of months, and what recognition, even though it's a different trauma behind it, but the process is the same. So she's saying, thank you for that, Téa. I would like to know, Téa, as we are going to be rounding off, where can we find you if we would like to have more experience of how you can help out? Because, of course, you do have in the group, of course, there is this activity that can be won during this week. And for those watching at a much later date, you can still contact Téa, where she is going to say that you can reach her. So Téa, where can we find you?
So the best place to find me at the moment is on my Facebook page, so or on my Facebook profile, Téa Staegemann, and then either on Instagram as well, where I'm under my name on Instagram. So those are the best places. I am on LinkedIn as well, but I don't because I don't target business people per se. But yes, I am anywhere where you can find social media. I'm there.
Well, that's Wonderful. So, lovely ladies, if you are interested in contacting Téa Staegemann, I say Staegemann because I'm Dutch, so I'm pronouncing it in the Dutch way, the light liberation leader. Maybe she can help you with your own abuse, being the woman that you are, or maybe she can help you to deal with it in a way as because you are a mother, or maybe you can also reach her to help the child that is in you. Reached out to Téa. She has the experience. You have been able to follow it. And I thank you very much, Téa. And thank you, lovely viewers who have been watching and interacting. So, once again, thank you for watching. And also in the group of Goddess Creations for Women and also outside. Feel free to ask anything, post any questions or comments underneath anywhere it is, because Téa and I would be more than willing to reach out to you. Téa, is there anything else that you would like to add to round this off or get, shed light on?
No, I think I've said a lot. I'm just, if people have questions, then, please go ahead, ask questions. I will happily answer as many as possible. So, and I hope this has helped. I really hope this has helped somebody to be able to speak their truth.
Well, I have already seen in the comments that many have recognized this. And as I said, thank you very much, because the message is needed. And no, the trauma itself might not be specifically the same, but the trauma on the inside is very universal. So thank you, Téa, for helping us to, and by showing and doing it yourself, how speaking of truth, your truth can heal you from your out of those subconscious layers. So thank you very much. And let's all focus on the future. I wish you a lovely day and I will see you soon. Thank you, lovely ladies. Thank you, Téa. And I will see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye.